Debbie and her children talking shite. Debbie and her children talking absolute shite.
Thanks a lot for joining us last week. We've had quite a lot of respondents from that first episode. In fact, I've got a couple of questions here from the public, and they've only asked directed questions towards Mother. For example, Skunk657 from Swindon has asked Debbie, is it true that in 1985, at the height of Ian Botham's powers, you beat him in an arm wrestle in a pub? No? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You can't beat Beefy Botham in an arm wrestle. It's
I was
impossible.
actually pregnant with you at that time, Andrew. So that
would have given
definitely
you more strength, I should imagine.
No, I've never had anything to do with him, and I don't like him or didn't like him. Yeah.
Well,
No.
okay.
If you're making these questions up, Andrew,
No.
I'm going to be.
No.
Why is a stranger asking if I arm wrestled Ian Botham?
Listen, don't shoot the messenger. That's what I will say. Don't shoot the messenger, okay? And if you're going to get angry this early on in our podcast series,
angry, you know I'm not angry. When do I get angry?
When you go to arm wrestle Ian Botham, I should imagine.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, we will
Who's
be.
Ian Botham?
We will talk about that later, Stephen, and I'm very disappointed that you don't know. We will be pulling out the themes as usual from the Hat of Destiny. And here, and in fact, before we do that, can everyone just introduce themselves, please? First of all, we have Craig. Say hello, Craig.
Hello, I'm Craig.
Okay, and then we have Donna.
Hello, I am Donna.
And then we have Steve.
Hey guys.
Hey guys. Okay, and then we have Billy.
Hello.
And then we have Debbie.
Hello, my beautiful darlings. Hello, everyone. Oh.
Okay, don't go over the top. That's a bit needy, isn't it? Okay, so as we do every week, let's pull out the theme from the Hat of Destiny. Can everyone summon the Hat of Destiny, please?
Pull it out. Pull it out.
Pull it out. Pull it out. It's so glad this is not a visual podcast because as Craig was shouting, pull it out. I don't even want to tell you what Debbie pulled out.
I didn't do anything. I didn't see.
Ian Botham would have been jealous.
No.
Theme number 2 is work. One story I would like to bring up is when I first moved to London, I had to pay the rent somehow, and I found this job. I didn't know what it was advertising, but I went along for the day, and it was this office, and they played really loud dance music. You could hardly hear anyone speak, and there was a bunch of us in there. And this woman said, right, we're going to go out to London for the day. And I still had no idea how people were earning money in this industry. So we all went out together. They took me straight to a hospital, which is a bit worrying. Turns out what they were trying to do was sell makeup to the nurses, which was very illegal. And by the way, these nurses were trying to do things such as, saving lives and things like that. So we went to this room and we summoned all the nurses together as people were dying and stuff around us. They said, follow our lead. And as I say, about 10 of us there. And they tried to sell this really cheap makeup to these nurses. So I'd say about out of 30 nurses, probably one nurse may have bought a lipstick, and then we all left. And I thought, well, how the hell am I going to earn any money from this? And we left the hospital because, well, in fact, we didn't leave. Somebody kicked us out. The police were called, so we were forced out of the hospital. We ended up leaving, and as we got outside, the police car was there, and they was ready to arrest us all. They come out the police car, and they come up to us, and they started speaking, and I said, yeah, well, you know, we're just here, we're selling makeup. I turned around and literally everybody else had left. It was just me. It was just me and the police people. They said, well, this is actually illegal. You cannot be selling makeup to nurses, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, they left. As soon as they left, I turned around and the people that I'd been with all morning were actually hiding behind a bush at the hospital. It was really weird. They all kind of come out one by one. And they said, well, thanks for handling that, Andrew. That's very kind of you. And I said, right, you know what? This isn't for me. I'm going to leave now. I think I'm going to look for something a bit more suitable for me. And they said, no, don't leave. If you stay with us, you could have your own office in 6 months' time. I was tempted to try and sell the police people some makeup, but I thought, no, that's crossing the line. Do you want a bit of lippy?
I think I will go actually. Okay, so I was about 14 years old and I got a job at the local pub in Norfolk. And I was working in the kitchens, and my job was to mash up the vegetables, all the potatoes and the swede together and all that. And then he upgraded me to serving the tables. My boss kept telling me to smile all the time. Apparently I wasn't smiling enough. So I just got into my shift one day, and let me just say, I only got this job so I could have enough money to use the fag machine there, because it was like 20 fags for £3. They were knockoff fags. It's the only reason I was working there. Right, so just started my shift, and this woman said, can you go and clean the table? This couple had like a whole chicken and loads of other stuff. I was like, all right. And as I got to the table, I noticed the boss walked past me, and he put his fingers to his mouth like to stretch it as if to say smile. So I wasn't concentrating, and I heard a scream. And what I'd done is I dropped a whole chicken carcass on this lady's lap, a whole chicken carcass. And I just picked it up with both hands and gave her a teeny tissue and said, sorry. And anyway, the next week I went to go back into work and my name went on the rotor. And I was like, all right. So I bought my fags and walked out. Went in the next week, my name went on. Went in the next week. I went in 4 weeks in a row. My name went on the rotor. And I should have taken the hint that they'd sacked me. But yes, that was my job of working in a pub in the kitchen, yes.
Oh, well, that's most unfair. They could have let you know that they didn't want you anymore.
How embarrassing. What a nugget. Yeah. What a golden nugget.
That's
what a chicken nugget.
Yes, I totally was. Yes.
Sorry, Craig?
I said that's what happens when you drop a chicken carcass on Lady Hoo-Ha's lap.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Watch out. That was Lady Hoo-Ha.
She didn't ask for stuffing as well, did she?
I left school early, didn't take any exams, wanted some money in my pocket, wanted to be independent, went for a job at Pie Records, and on the way there, I mean, you lot know this story, I think, but a pigeon crapped all over my head. And I got to the interview, and the guy interviewed me, the boss, he was the manager of the department, and he said to me, got all through the interview, and at the end he said, you know, the interview's gone really well. He said, I just need to ask you something. And I said, yeah, of course. And he said, why do you keep touching the top of your head? And it was because obviously I was trying to sort of either cover the poop with the rest of my hair or try and stroke it out. And I thought I might as well just be honest. And I said, well, to be honest with you, a pigeon just pooped on my head on the way to the interview, and I haven't had time to clean it off because I didn't want to be late for the interview. And he said, well, it was very lucky because you got the job. And
perfect.
Ever since then, I've always thought it's a lucky thing when that happens. I know a couple of you are not going to agree with me on that.
And you've still not washed it out?
No, it's still there, Stephen, obviously.
Was you known as Shithead after that or not?
No, it wasn't, strangely enough. Thank you, Donna. No.
Shithead, it's your turn to do the coffee run.
I've got one.
Go on, Craig.
I've got a lot of work stories, but I'm going to choose the one that makes me laugh the most. Years ago, just after I'd finished sixth form, before I went to college, I had to get a job to get some money. So I got this job. It was in Norfolk, in the middle of nowhere. In this, it was just like a big building where it was like a carpentry job, and people built all these little houses for pigs and stables. And there was all these horrible people there. The school bully had a job there. It's the first person I saw. Man. But whatever, I got on okay with everyone. But anyway, the guy who owned it, and this guy, Freddie, was this really old guy. And all people are always saying, I don't know how Freddie's got this business because it seems like it's thick as shit. I was like, yeah, I know what you mean. But one day, me and this guy, John, we were building like this little pig hut. And we got this electric planer, right? So electric planer. And you build the little hatches that you open for the piggies to go in. You have to plane the hatch so it shuts properly. And we're doing it. And this old guy, Fred, walks along. And he's like, what are you boys doing with that electric planer? Do you even know how to use it? He was from Norfolk, it's Norfolk accent. And so he comes up, he grabs his planer. He goes, look, this is how you do it. And so he turned around and he put it on the door. And I could see what was going to happen. What he'd done was, I think he was left-handed, so he'd held it the other way around. So the little thing that blows all the sawdust out wasn't facing away from him, it was facing towards his head.
Oh, wicked.
So he started planing, and all this sawdust was hitting him in the face. But because he was too proud to admit that he was wrong, he just carried on. And all this sawdust was sticking to his head. It's going all this. That's how you do it, boys. That's how you do it, like that. And Fred, the bag goes on the other side. He goes, yeah, see, that's how you plane an electric planer. He just walked away, just covered in sawdust. And I always makes me laugh because he was just too proud to stop and say, oh no, I've done this wrong. Just carried on like an idiot.
Okay, Stephen, have you got any good work stories?
Yeah, I got quite a good one, I think. So this was when, me and Bill worked with Donna's partner, Steve, for a while. And we were on quite a big job. We ended up being there it was close to 2 years, I think. We were there for quite a while. It was a big house. And we were it was two houses and we were knocking them together. And so we were in the second side of the building and we were turning it into a cinema room. But the first thing we had to do was gut it all and knock down a couple of walls. And there was quite a few of us working there. There was this homeless guy there who was working, and he wasn't too smart, but so he was running around and we were like sort of telling him to headbutt the walls down and stuff like that, and he was doing it. Nobody was wearing any protection, and we had stripped the ceiling. We had taken the ceiling down, and there was screws pointing out of the ceiling, and he was on a ladder, and he jumped to headbutt a bit of timber out, and he got stuck in the air on a screw on his head, and we had to twist him down.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
We
This
had
did not happen. This did not
We had
happen.
to unscrew him from the ceiling.
We promised all our stories are true. That is not true.
We had to unscrew him from the ceiling.
What?
No.
You had to turn him around?
Yes, he was stuck in a screw with a thread.
No.
The thread had gone in his head, and we had to turn it. We had to unscrew him.
Bollocks! Bollocks!
So I first moved out, I got this job at this new building firm, and I think I was tasked with cutting coving for a plasterer. So the plasterer was sticking them on, and it was my first day on the job, so I was kind of like nervous being a young kid. And he was like, look, can you cut coving this hard? I was like, yeah, no, of course I can. And I was cutting it. And then this other carpenter was like, oh, can I have a go? I said, yeah, cool, like, you make this cut. And then he's cut it wrong. And this blaster's come in just shouting at me, like, and I thought, like, all right, cool, like, shut your mouth. And then so he's like, this is my first day, and this guy was like in with everyone. Like the site foreman loved this guy. It was like his son or something. They were just really good friends. And this guy's like started hyperventilating, had an asthma attack. The next time I seen him, he was like, I think they phoned. I can't remember. I don't know if they called the paramedics or something. But he was like, look, I need to go home, and he had like a few days off. And then came back like...
There we go. Thank you, Billy. A nice cosy story of a young man hyperventilating.
In the store that I work in that happens to sell board games, a few years ago, I was working quite late at night, and it isn't quite a posh area, so there's never any trouble normally. But this one night, these three young guys come in the store, and like they were kind of clearly not there to buy any games or anything like that. And they walk around trying to look menacing. I was giving my some dirty looks and that. And anyway, there was this one other customer in the store, and anyway, I think these kids thought that it was a video game store, and they walked around and realised that there was nothing worth stealing that they were interested in. So they started to leave, and there's this other guy in the corner, this little nerdy guy, and they left. But the last kid before he left, he picks up a copy of this children's board game called Rhino Hero, and he threw it at this guy's head, and it bounced off of his head. And I jumped over the till and went to chase him out, and they'd run off. And I was like, oh, I better get back to the shop. And so I went up to this guy. I was like, oh, mate, are you okay? I'm really sorry about that. Are you all right? And he goes, because he was so nerdy. He's like, yeah, no, it's okay. I was like, I know, really, like, I hit you on the head. Are you all right? I was like, yeah, it's all right. That happens. What happens? And I was very bad for him because he was so like, yeah, this happens to me all the time. People always run away. So anyway, I kept that video, and whenever we have a new employee, I say to him, look, you think this job is easy, but it's not. Because watch the video, this could happen to you. How would you deal with it?
I tend to go for jobs I know I'm definitely not going to get. I had an interview to work in France a couple of years ago, and it was a web interview. And the first question she asked was, "Can you speak French?" And I said no. And she said, "Well, I cannot employ you then." And then hey,
she was from India then.
She was from India. She was Indian French.
Yes.
He's got me. But yeah, there was another one. I was just walking down Denmark Street, the famous musicians street in London, and there was a poster outside saying this music shop was looking for a drum tech. And I went in and I said, yeah, I'm interested in your drum tech job. And they said, can you play the drums? And I said, no. And they said, well, yeah, we can't give you the job then. There's kind of like a new thing where they ask you like a quirky question at the end of interviews. I don't know whether you know this. And Craig, as somebody who interviews people, do you ever throw in a quirky question?
I throw in quirky questions all the time, because normally when I do an interview, it's with somebody else, and obviously they're quite boring compared to me. So I feel sorry for the person being interviewed, and I feel that I need to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll be like, so what's your availability for the coming months? So I'm like, yeah, what are you going to do? Are you planning on robbing any banks?
Do they take that rather seriously, I'm guessing?
Well, the ones that get the job don't. That's the thing. If they just look at me all scared and confused, and I'm like, you're not right for this.
Yeah. I had an interview a couple of years ago. It was some kind of media job, and it was going pretty well. And then right at the end, they threw in the quirky question, and their one was, if you was an animal, which animal would you be? And I panicked and I said squirrel. And they they wrote something down. They looked at me and just wrote something down. I don't know what they wrote, but I think it was like basically them doing a big cross on their paper. But I guess and they said, why would you be a squirrel? And then I really had to dig deep, and I was like, because they are nimble, they like nuts, they like climbing trees. I was trying to think of everything I could.
Because they're very sensual. I got one like super quick one. You talk about job interviews. Many years ago, I saw an interview for a job at Toys R Us, and I was desperate for a job. So I went to this interview, and it was one of those interviews where like they get you to like be sociable with all the other people interviewing for the job. And there was a lot of nonsense like that. It felt like a management course, not an interview. Well, anyway, we're sitting there, and at one point the interviewers, there's two of them just sitting there. I was really nervous about this, by the way, because I really wanted this job. They were just sitting there, and they go, right, what we want you to do now, all of you who are interviewing for this job, we want you to just sit there and just talk amongst yourselves. So at that point, I got a really dry throat. For some reason, I got all nervous. So the first thing I did was, the interviewer had this bottle of water. So I ran over and said, can I just have this, please? Drink it.
Can I just have this, please?
Yeah, at that point it dawned on me. I was trying not to heave because my throat was so dry. And when I'd done that, I was like, oh no, I haven't got this job, have I? So now I have nothing to lose. So when we sat down, all the people in the interview, everyone was just sitting there like, what do you mean? Nobody was talking amongst themselves. So I sat down, and because it'd been in the newspaper the other day, the first thing that popped into my head was like, that Prince Harry, what a twat. And I didn't get the job, surprisingly.
I've been there as well. Those stupid team building things. I went for an interview and they got us all to sit down and asked us to. You're not going to believe this, but they asked us to. They had all these paper straws and glue, and they asked us to build a fucking bridge together.
Oh, please. How degrading to get a job.
But yeah, so I didn't get that job.
I've just realised I do actually have hundreds of work stories, but I've just realised that we did a team building exercise when I was working for a book company, and we all went paintballing. I have no idea why. I didn't have the slightest interest in anything like that. But we all went paintballing, and as usual, there was someone who was a bit snotty and a bit of a job's worth. And anyway, we went paintballing, and I decided to sneak off under a bush and have a cigarette while everyone was charging around with their guns, you know. And those things really hurt when they hit you. They really bruise you. And this woman saw the smoke, obviously, and come running over and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And I said, because I was pathetic and it was in the 80s or something, I said, I'm having a cigarette. And she said, well, this isn't a bloody time for you to have a cigarette. You're meant to be doing a team building exercise. And I said, eat my shorts, right? And
sorry, you said what? Sorry?
I said, eat my shorts, because, you know, the Simpsons were popular at the time. I said, no, eat my shorts. And I walked off, and about 10 minutes later, I happened to see her, and I shot her up the arse with a paintball gun, and it hurt her.
Well, so, literally put it...
Not up, at her arse, on her arse. Look, not up her actual arsehole, Andrew. Don't get excited. No, it was just on her bot.
So me and Steve, we worked for this couple who were nuts, like they were mental. And so we, at one point, I got to the point I think I was injuring myself every week. And one time he had an old Ford 3000 tractor, and the engine, to switch it off, it was actually on the engine. But I didn't know this. But he asked me to switch it off one day, and it was just the end of the day. Me and Steve were hungry, cold, wet. We wanted to go home. And so he sort of said, "Oh, turn it off." So I wondered where this switch was. So I've put my hand around the side of the panel, and I've got my 3 fingers hit by the front fan. It got hit by the big fan that's on the front. They swelled up instantly. I thought my hand was broken, it hit it really bad. And this guy was so nuts afterwards, he just went, that's okay, you can just sweep up for the rest of the day. Handed me a broom that I couldn't even use my hand at this point. He's handed me a broom and expected me to sweep up. And the day before this, because it was raining, we were set to move scaffolding. And so Steve's doing the boards, he's a bit away. You could probably see me, it was a bit misty, a bit foggy. But as the poles were wet, I've slipped. My hands got lodged in, it was in between a few of the bolts and a pole. It was wet. It was interesting, and I slipped over, and I'm in a position where I can't really move. I look over at Steve. He's got his headphones in. He's just singing, all happy, moving boards like nothing's happening when I couldn't move. And it's not until we look back, probably 10 minutes later, where I know he actually saw me and helped me.
Wow. You're actually lucky, because knowing Stephen, it could have actually been weeks till he found you.
We all had to do this, go for a meeting every 6 months with our manager, and I'd sort of had a bit of a fallout with her, and we had a new team manager, and he said to me, "Deb, when you go in for this interview, you've got to really play it straight, and you've really got to behave yourself, because she's really, really not happy with you, because we'd had a big clash about something." And I said, "Okay." And basically, she gave me a warning, and I on the last moment, I appealed against it, and she didn't like it. Anyway, I went into this the meeting, and I went along with everything she said, and we were both giving each other the look while this was going on, because she knew and I knew that we'd done with each other by now. And my new team manager was quite a nervous guy, and he was really nice, and he was sort of like looking at me as if to say, don't muck this up. And then it got to the question where she said to me, and where do you see yourself in 5 years' time, Debbie? And I said, on a beach with Axl Rose. And
yes, perfect answer.
You're going to say up your arse.
well, I should have said that, Craig, but I decided to go on a beach with Axl Rose. And yeah, she wasn't very impressed. And my poor team manager went completely red and came out afterwards and said, what you, and I said, that is truly where I see myself in 5 years' time. I'm not envisaging me being here at this desk in 5 years' time. That was the truth.
I love that story. Yeah. I really love that story. What did your manager say when you said that?
Which one, the team manager or the actual manager? Oh, she had a pen in her hand and she raised her eyebrow and she looked at me and she said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, really."
Nice.
And she had to write that down because that was my answer.
Nice. Rock and roll. I like that.
So rock and roll.
And did that happen 5 years later? Was you on a beach with Axl Rose?
I can't tell you about that.
I can imagine you saying to Axl Rose, "Welcome to my jungle."
I was a supervisor at Screwfix for a bit, and they had to send me on a first aid course before I did that. And it was, I was the only one doing it, like out of my store. So there was loads of people from other different kinds of shops. So I didn't know anyone there. There was about 30 of us there, and so we had to do the what's it called when you like do the chest compressions and stuff?
CPR.
Jokey.
It's a good job. It's a good job I never had to use it. CPR. So we had to pair up with people, and I was with this guy, and he was nice, but we just weren't. We didn't have.
There was no sexual chemistry.
No, definitely not. But so we went off into pairs, and we had like one of the dummies that we had to blow air into and stuff like that. And it was a bit like the day was alright. Me and this guy did talk, and we were getting on alright. And I just thought it'd be funny. So while it was my turn to do the chest compressions. But so anyway, so I was pushing down his chest, and he had to make sure that I was doing everything right. And I looked at him, and I started to pretend to snog the dummy, and then I continued to do chest compressions, and then I slapped the dummy in the face. But as I did that, the teacher saw me do that, and she came over and she was sort of like, "Well, that's not going to save somebody's life, is it?" I was like, "No, probably not." But the guy didn't find it funny either, so I ended up I was sort of like looking him in the eye while I was kissing this dummy, but he didn't find it very entertaining.
Oh, what? Not fair.
I've heard that story before, and I was trying not to laugh because I often think of that story and think how funny it would be if someone did that if I was doing a first aid course. I think it's genius.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Nobody else found it. I did pass the course.
Oh, darling, some people have no sense of humour.
Wow, did I feel sorry for you?
Probably, yeah. Well, she saw the way I kissed.
So, thank you for joining us for episode 2 of Debbie and her children talking absolute shite. Hope you enjoyed that. Everybody, say your goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time. All right, cool.
Oh, you did say the last thing, didn't you?
Debbie and her children talking shite. Debbie and her children talking absolute shite.